The Cry Beneath the Floorboards. Eli Brennan didn't come to the woods looking for trouble. He came for silence, the kind of silence only a cabin buried deep in the Pacific Northwest could offer. His uncle's will had left him the place, a rickety, log-built home half swallowed by moss, mold, and time. A few townies from Birch Hollow called it haunted, but Eli didn't believe in ghosts. He believed in grief. And lately, that was all he could feel. His backpack hit the dusty floor with a thud as he stepped inside, flicking on a flashlight. The air was damp, wooden beams above groaning in protest, as if the house itself resented his arrival. It had been 6 months since his uncle died. Eli never knew the man well. He'd been military, secretive, paranoid. Rumors said he was part of some government black project in the 90s. But whatever the truth, the cabin was now Eli's. And tonight, for the first time, it would be his home. He lit a fire in the rusted stove and unrolled his sleeping bag. That's when he heard it, a sound, faint, distant, a whimper. He froze. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't the woods. It was underneath him. Eli knelt down, pressing his ear to the wooden floorboards. The sound was clearer now. Not quite a cry, but something close, a high-pitched, breathy whine, like someone trying not to scream. His breath caught in his throat. This couldn't be real. With a trembling hand, he moved the rug and began feeling for seams in the planks. Nothing stood out until he reached the far corner, where a single board felt looser than the others. He wedged his multi-tool into the gap and pried it open. A puff of cold air hit his face. There was a hatch beneath the floor, steel-lined, old, reinforced. His heart thumped in his chest. This wasn't a storm shelter. It looked military. He opened it. The scent of rust and old blood rose up instantly, sharp and metallic. His flashlight cut into the darkness below, revealing a narrow, steep staircase that led into an underground room. The crying stopped. Eli hesitated. Everything in him screamed, "Turn back." But something else pulled him forward. He descended. The walls were lined with strange markings, symbols that shimmered slightly when the light passed over them. At the bottom, the room opened into a chamber no larger than a garden shed. In the center was a figure, a girl, naked, starving, shackled at the ankles and wrists. Her skin was not human, pale, almost translucent, with a subtle glow in shades of soft violet and blue. Her hair was white, tangled, and fell past her shoulders like silk drowned in oil. She recoiled from the light, covering her face with thin, clawed hands. Eli stepped back instinctively, startled. She wasn't screaming. She wasn't attacking. She was terrified. I'm not going to hurt you," he said slowly, keeping his voice low. She whimpered again, curling tighter into herself, her body trembling violently. Her limbs looked too thin, like they hadn't moved in weeks. Her feet were blistered and bruised. Whoever put her here hadn't planned to let her out. Eli looked around. The walls were scrawled with diagrams, DNA spirals, strange text sketches, handwritten notes in both English and some alien glyphs. There were monitors, long dead, and tubes protruding from the ceiling like veins that had been cut. This was a lab. Or a prison. He knelt beside her, lowering the flashlight. "Do you understand me?" She didn't reply, but her breathing slowed slightly. She peeked out from behind her hand, eyes bright silver, wide and unblinking. "Are you hurt?" "No." "Answer." Carefully, Eli took off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. She tensed at the contact, but didn't pull away. Her skin felt warm, too warm. The chains were magnetic, sealed with strange locking mechanisms. Definitely not standard. Eli had no idea how to open them, but he knew one thing: no one deserved to be left like this. He stood. "I'll come back. I'll bring food, water, just hang on." As he turned to leave, she suddenly made a soft sound, barely audible. "Don't." He froze. He turned back. "What?" Her lips barely moved. Her voice cracked like a whisper through glass. "Don't send me back." A chill ran down Eli's spine. "I won't," he said. "I promise." That night he couldn't sleep. He paced the cabin, staring at the closed hatch. What the hell was this? Who was she? Why here? Why his uncle's cabin? Morning came early. He drove into town, bought food, water, and a basic med kit. When the cashier asked what it was for, he mumbled something about a sick pet. He returned before noon. She hadn't moved, but her eyes followed him. He knelt beside her, opening a bottle of water. She stared at it, wary, then slowly reached out. Her fingers shook as she gripped it. She drank like she hadn't had water in days. The protein bar came next. She sniffed it, then bit, then devoured it like a starved animal. "Easy," he said, gently. "There's more." He showed her the medkit, but she recoiled. Eli decided not to push. Instead, he just sat with her. An hour passed. Then another. Finally, she spoke again. "What's your name?" He looked up, surprised. Her voice was faint, dry but clear. "Eli. Eli Brennan." She nodded weakly. "Eli. What's your name?" She hesitated. Then, "Sura. A beautiful name. Do you remember how you got here?" She shook her head. "They took me, made me sleep. Then pain. So much pain." Eli clenched his fists. "Who are they?" She looked at him, and something flickered in her eyes. "Your kind." Days passed. Eli returned every morning with more supplies. Slowly, Sura began to recover. He found a blanket, new clothes, and carefully cut the magnetic shackles using a mix of tools, magnets, and trial and error. When the last one fell off, she didn't run. She just stared at him, shocked. "You're free now," he said. She didn't reply. Instead, she reached out, touching his face gently. For a moment, Eli felt something jolt through him, like a static shock, but deeper. He staggered back, blinking. The room had changed. The air shimmered. He saw flashes, memories not his own, a silver planet. Screams in a language he didn't know. A room filled with children, like Sura, hooked to machines. Then it was gone. He gasped, collapsing to his knees. Sura was crying softly. "I'm sorry," she said. What was that?" "Memory. They live in me. They bleed when I touch." Eli wiped his eyes. "Why did they do that? To you?" She looked at the ceiling. "They feared what I might become." That night, he couldn't stop thinking about her, the look in her eyes. The stories she didn't say aloud. He dug through his uncle's journal, buried in the attic. Most of it was nonsense, rants about the interface, Phase 9 entities, containment breach protocols. But one passage stood out. Subject 9, housed. Beneath primary site, genetic template unstable. Will monitor for behavioral changes, avoid direct emotional contact. Sura, his uncle, knew. She was never a prisoner of chance. She was an experiment. Eli returned to the hatch. Sura was waiting for him, standing now. Her balance weak, but her eyes determined. "You read it," she said. He nodded. "Was he the one who put you here?" She nodded slowly. "He said I was too human." Eli's chest tightened. "What does that mean?" Sura stepped closer. "It means I wanted to live, not obey." That frightened them. He stared at her glowing skin, her trembling hands, her shimmering silver eyes. "You're not a monster," he said. She looked up at him. "Then what am I?" "You're someone who deserves a second chance." Silence. Then, "Stay." "What?" "Stay with me." "Forever?" Eli blinked. The words came out of her like an echo, soft, unsure but real. He swallowed hard. "Yes, I will." But before he could say more, the cabin floor above them creaked. Both of them froze. Heavy boots. 2, no, 3 sets. A voice echoed from above. "Subject 9 signal just reactivated. She's awake." Sura's eyes widened in terror, and Eli realized this wasn't over. Not even close. She wasn't supposed to survive. The boots moved slowly above them, deliberate, heavy, soldier-like. Eli held his breath, standing in front of Sura protectively, every muscle in his body screaming to move, to run. But run where? They were underground, in a hidden lab with only one exit, the same door they just came through. Sura trembled, her skin pulsing with faint bioluminescence as she whispered, "They've found me." Eli's mind raced. Who were they? Why now? Had helping her activated something? Was there a tracker in the shackles, or worse, in her? A harsh, metallic voice echoed from above, faint but chilling. "We confirm signal. Breach team hold position. Awaiting green light. No more time." Eli grabbed Sura's hand. "We need to move, now!" She didn't argue. He led her back up the narrow stairwell toward the hatch. The floor above creaked again. Shadows moved just beyond the slats. Eli paused, then turned sharply, dragging Sura back down the steps. "No, if we go up, we're trapped." He scanned the lab. The old power lines, conduit pipes, and there, hidden beneath a rusted table, an old service tunnel hatch, half-welded shut. "I saw this days ago," Eli muttered, kicking the metal aside. He yanked the handle. It groaned, wouldn't budge. Sura stepped forward. "Move!" Her fingertips pressed to the metal and glowed, a sizzling sound, then a loud pop. The lock released. Eli blinked. "What did you just—" "No time," she said, pushing the hatch open. They dropped into darkness. The tunnel was tight, barely tall enough to crouch walk, and smelled of oil and decay. But it led away from the cabin, downward into the hillside, past old junctions and crumbling supports. Eli's flashlight flickered, casting jagged shadows. Behind them, distant thuds echoed, boots hitting the lower stairs. "They're in," he said. "They'll follow our tracks." "No," Sura said. "I blurred them." "How?" "I don't know, but I did." Another jolt of fear surged through him. "You keep saying things you shouldn't know how to do." Sura paused, looking at him. "I told you. They didn't build me to understand. They built me to obey." "Built?" She nodded. "Born in lab, grown fast, injected with memories, spliced from DNA across systems. I'm not first. I'm just last." Eli's stomach turned. She was engineered, a living prototype, designed for something. Maybe war, maybe control. And his uncle, his own blood, had kept her locked in a basement like a failed experiment. They reached a fork. The right path sloped sharply, the left collapsed by a cave-in. "Right," Eli said, helping her down. Moments later, they emerged into an old bunker, possibly part of an abandoned Cold War site. Rusted chairs, decayed monitors, and broken panels filled the room. There was a faded American flag on one wall, and a smashed control panel beneath it. "We can hide here for a while," Eli said, but Sura was staring at the monitor remains. "I know this place." "You've been here before?" "No, but it remembers me." Hours passed. Sura sat against the wall, wrapped in Eli's jacket, eyes closed. Her skin pulsed with faint light in the dark. Eli tried to keep warm, tossing scraps into a rusted barrel and setting fire to it with an old emergency flare. He finally sat across from her. "What are they going to do if they catch you?" Her eyes opened slowly. "Wipe me, reprogram, or destroy." "Why?" "Because I'm broken. I feel too much. I dream." She leaned her head back. "The others didn't." Eli frowned. "There were others." She nodded. 9 of us, all female, all cloned from something ancient, something not entirely from this galaxy. Eli leaned closer. "So, you're not even like them? The ones chasing you?" "No," she whispered. "They made me, but I'm not theirs. Not anymore." Eli stared into the flames. This was bigger than any sci-fi movie. Bigger than his imagination could keep up with. A genetically engineered alien girl, more like a blend of alien and ancient technology, made to be obedient, functional, empty. But instead, she broke. Their mold. She felt, and now they wanted her erased. He looked at her glowing hands. "When you touched me earlier, I saw things." She looked down. "I didn't mean to. I saw a world, children, machines, screams. You were one of them. Yes, you showed me a memory. Not showed. Shared." Eli swallowed. "Can you do that again?" She looked up, unsure. "It hurts. For you. The more I open, the more you bleed. I don't care. Show me." She hesitated, then reached out. The world shifted. Eli blinked, and he wasn't in the bunker anymore. He was floating. A sterile white lab. Fluid-filled tanks. 9 girls, almost identical to Sura, curled inside glass wombs, eyes closed, wires coiled around. "They're like leeches," a voice spoke. "Subject 9 exhibiting instability. Emotional leakage detected. Terminate? No. Contain, reprogram, then deploy." Then, flashes of Sura screaming as needles entered her skull, screams turning into silence. Eli was pulled further, a hallway, red sirens blaring, scientists fleeing. One man stayed behind, his uncle. He opened the emergency hatch, shoved Sura inside, looked at her and whispered, "I'm sorry." Then slammed the hatch shut. Everything faded. Eli gasped, falling backward as the memory collapsed. His ears rang, his nose bled. But he understood now. His uncle had saved her, not imprisoned her. He'd betrayed his own agency to hide Subject 9. Sura stared at him. "You see now?" "Yeah," he said, wiping blood from his face. "I see everything." She looked away. "That's why I must die. I wasn't supposed to survive." Eli moved to her, grabbing her hand. "No, that's why you must live." Outside, wind howled, the forest groaned, snow began to fall, and in the dark, far above them, an old military drone scanned the area. It whirred, beeped, and locked onto a faint heat signature buried below. Inside a black van miles away, a figure stared at the monitor. "There she is." A woman in a suit leaned forward. "Prepare the extraction team. Subject 9 has outlived her usefulness." Back underground, Sura stirred. "I can feel them," she whispered. Eli looked up. "What?" "They're coming. Tonight." He stood, grabbing a crowbar. "Then we move again." But Sura didn't move. Her body glowed brighter, pulsing with an energy he hadn't seen before. She looked dazed, her eyes flickering. "I'm changing," she said softly. "The longer I'm awake, the more it grows." "What does?" She placed his hand on her chest. Eli felt it. A heartbeat, yes, but also something else. Something humming beneath the surface, like a storm coiled inside her bones. "A power they buried inside me," she said. "It's waking up." He pulled back. "What happens if it does?" She looked down, almost afraid of herself. "I don't know." Night fell fast. Eli scouted outside, checking the tunnel entrance. It had collapsed behind them. They were boxed in. He returned to the bunker. Sura stood barefoot in the firelight, staring at the American flag on the wall. "I remember it from the lab," she whispered. "They swore by it, while hurting us." Eli joined her. "That flag doesn't mean what they made it mean, not to everyone." She nodded, then said, "Eli, if they find me and I lose control, run." "No." She turned, eyes glowing brighter now, silver laced with gold. "Promise me. I'm not leaving you. You might not have a choice." He stepped closer. "I choose you." A long silence. Then she said softly, "No one's ever said that to me before." Midnight, a low-frequency pulse shook the walls. Then voices distant, muffled, thermal signature locked. "Begin breach protocol." Eli grabbed the crowbar. Sura stepped in front of him. "No," she said. "Let me try something." She raised her hands, and the air shifted. Everything flickered, like a glitch in reality. The lights dimmed. The fire went still. Then, the sound of shattering metal. The tunnel entrance split open. Armed men stepped inside. Armored suits, helmets with infrared visors, Plasma rifles, aimed and ready. Target locked. Subject 9, surrender immediately. Sura stepped forward. I don't want to hurt you. One of the soldiers fired. The bolt flew straight at her and stopped. Mid-air, frozen. The air hummed. Time seemed to hold its breath. Sura blinked, and the bolt disintegrated into light. The soldiers hesitated. Then chaos erupted. Eli grabbed Sura's hand. Go! They ran, past the confusion, past the storm of shouts and failed weapons. Sura's glow now radiant, lighting the tunnel like a sun buried underground. Behind them, the soldiers collapsed one by one, not dead, just unconscious. Their visors shorted out, their weapons melted like wax. By the time Eli and Sura reached the surface, the snowy clearing behind the mountain, they were alone again, breathing hard, shaking, alive. Eli looked at her, stunned. What was that? Sura looked at her hands. I think I'm becoming what they feared. He touched her face, pulling her into a quiet hug. No, he whispered. You're becoming who you were always meant to be. The ones who watched her fall. The snowfall blanketed the trees like a hush spreading over a battlefield. Eli and Sura stood beneath the skeletal pines, breath misting in the cold. The ground trembled slightly behind them as the underground bunker continued its slow collapse, buried under snow, debris, and what remained of the failed extraction team. The silence between them was heavy, pulsing with everything left unsaid. Eli was the first to speak. We can't stay here. Sura nodded slowly, her luminous eyes reflecting the moonlight. They'll come again, stronger. Eli glanced around. Then we vanish. There's a cave system in the North Ridge, deep enough to hide satellites. My dad used to go hunting there. Sura looked at him, her expression unreadable. Why are you doing this? He blinked. What? You saw what I am. You felt what I carry inside. You know I wasn't made to live a normal life. I was made to replace one. Eli stepped closer. You weren't made to replace anyone. You were made to feel nothing. But look at you now. You're scared, angry, brave. You're alive, Sura. She turned away. That's why they'll never stop. He reached out, gently taking her hand. Then we give them a reason to fear something else. They moved by night. Each hour deeper into the mountains took them further from the reach of drones, satellites, and human roads. Sura walked with strange familiarity, even though she'd never seen snow before. Her bare feet never sank. Her body emitted enough warmth to melt frost, but never enough to leave prints. She was learning how to control it, whatever it was. Her glowing had lessened. Her steps were more fluid, almost too graceful. By the second night, they reached the cave system. Eli lit a fire just inside a narrow pass. The interior was massive, high ceilings, tunnels veining off into darkness, but dry, safe, at least for now. Sura stared into the flames. You said you dream, Eli said, breaking the silence. I do. What do you dream about? Her voice was distant, hollow. A sky filled with black ships, children being pulled from capsules like roots torn from soil. And me, floating between worlds, always watching, never choosing. Eli leaned forward. Do you think you were meant for something? She looked up. Yes, but not what they planned. Somewhere above them, far beyond clouds and trees, orbiting silently over Earth, was a ship, invisible to most radars, cloaked in quantum distortion, a ship that hadn't left in decades. Inside it, a creature stood in silence, observing Earth through shifting panels of light. She was tall, twice human, height, her body covered in translucent armor that pulsed with blue veins. Her eyes were solid black, and her hands webbed like wings tucked at her sides. She had no name the humans would understand, but in her language she was Karathi, the midwife of the lost, and Subject 9 was hers. A subordinate approached. "Commander, Subject 9 has activated Phase Theta." Karathi's head turned slightly. "And the host?" "Human, male, attached. Emotional bonds confirmed." Karathi's mouth split slightly, a soundless smile. "It begins again." The subordinate shivered. "What are your orders?" Karathi stared back at Earth, the snowstorm below still swirling across the screen. "Observe, but do not interfere, not until she remembers what she truly is." Back in the cave, Sura's glow had gone completely. She looked almost human now. "Something's changed," she whispered, holding her hand to the fire. "I don't feel the heat. I don't feel anything." Eli moved beside her. "Are you going numb?" "No," she said slowly. "I'm evolving. Is that good or bad?" She didn't answer. Suddenly a noise echoed deep in the cave, a low clicking sound, too regular to be natural. Eli stood instantly. "You hear that?" Sura nodded. "Something's moving." He grabbed the crowbar again. "Could be animals. Bats, maybe." She shook her head. "No, it's watching us." They crept down a side tunnel, tracing the sound. At a junction, they found it. A strange metal object wedged between rocks. A sphere the size of a grapefruit, its surface shimmering with soft green. "Pulses," Sura gasped. "I know this." Eli looked at her. "What is it?" "A memory anchor," she whispered. "What does it do?" She reached for it, and the second her fingers touched the surface, the sphere opened, and the cave was filled with voices, dozens of them, crying, laughing, screaming, all layered over each other in alien tones, a waterfall of memories cascading. Into the stone, Sura collapsed. Eli caught her just as she hit the ground. Her body spasmed once, then went still. "Sura!" he shouted, shaking her. Her eyes rolled back, her mouth opened, and spoke in a voice that wasn't hers. She watched them. Burn the stars? She watched the sky split in two. She watched them make daughters out of ash, and now she remembers. Eli froze. Then silence. Sura blinked rapidly and gasped like someone surfacing from drowning. She grabbed his arm. "Eli, I saw them, all of them, the ones who came before me, the 8 girls who didn't survive." He helped her sit up. "What happened to them?" "They were harvested, recycled, their minds too unstable, their emotions too powerful." "Why do you remember this now?" She looked at the sphere, now dormant. "Because this memory was hidden from me, but someone left it behind." Eli stared at the strange object. "Then we're not alone." Later, they sat by the fire again. Sura leaned against Eli's shoulder, exhausted. "You said something in the cave," he whispered. "Your voice changed." She nodded. "I think I was channeling one of them." "One of the others?" "Yes, one who didn't want to be forgotten." Eli stared at the flames. "If we find more of those memory anchors, maybe we can learn what really happened." Sura nodded slowly. "Or why I was made different." Eli took her hand. "You're not just different," he said. "You're chosen." She turned to look at him. "By who?" That was when something moved outside. Not footsteps, not a drone. Something heavier, more primal. Eli stood up. "Stay here." "No," Sura said, standing too. "We face it together." They stepped out of the cave. Snow fell softly, but something stood in the tree line, a tall figure, cloaked, unmoving. It didn't speak, it didn't breathe. But Sura suddenly whispered, "She's one of them." Eli looked at her. "Who?" "The midwives." The figure stepped forward, revealing a face unlike any creature Eli had ever seen. Smooth, luminous, unblinking. She radiated not menace, but sadness. Sura walked toward her cautiously. The midwife raised a long, elegant hand. "You've awakened, daughter." Sura froze. "I'm not your daughter." "But you are," the midwife said. "You are the last vessel of the line. You carry the memory of 1,000 fallen civilizations. You were born to reclaim." Reclaim what? The stars. Eli stepped beside her. She's not reclaiming anything. She's not your tool. The midwife looked at him for the first time. You are the tether, the emotional anchor. Sura stepped forward. Why did you abandon the others? They were not ready, the midwife said. But you've survived despite their design. Sura narrowed her eyes. You're not here to help. You're here to harvest me. No, said the midwife softly. I'm here to offer you a choice. A glow formed in the midwife's palm, a sphere of condensed memory. Touch this, she said, and you will return with me. Learn your full purpose, reclaim your inheritance, and if I don't, then you stay, and you fight alone. Sura looked at Eli. He said nothing, only watched her. Then, slowly, she stepped back. No. The midwife tilted her head. You would deny your origin? I would define it myself. The midwife gave the faintest bow. Then the others will come. Not all are as gentle as me. She vanished in a shimmer of bending light, and the forest went still again. Sura collapsed into the snow. Eli caught. Are you okay? She nodded, breathless. That was real. Then we need to move again. No, she said, not yet. He looked down at her. Why? Because I need to prepare, she said. They're coming next, the ones who watched me fall, but didn't lift me up. And who are they? She looked into the sky, eyes glowing again. My creators, my judges, my end, the ones who made her. The wind howled through the mouth of the cave like a dying beast. Sura stood just beyond the firelight, eyes locked on the snowy trees. Her skin no longer shimmered, but her presence radiated something deeper now, resolve laced with dread. Eli watched from behind, not daring to speak. She hadn't said a word since the midwife disappeared. Finally, she broke the silence. They created me to be empty. Eli stepped closer. But you're not, she nodded slowly. I wasn't supposed to meet you. My kind has rules, protocols. We observe, we extract, we never attach. Eli's voice was soft. But you did. I didn't mean to. He stepped beside her. Neither did I, but I did. And I'm not walking away. She turned to face him fully. Then you need to know the truth before it's too late. He held her gaze. Tell me. It started with a star. Not a metaphor, a real one. A rogue star, drifting between galaxies, a remnant of a destroyed system. Within its orbit, a black world laboratory built by an ancient alien species known only in whispers across the galaxy, the architects. They had no true form, no language, just logic. Their goal, preserve dying civilizations by extracting their strongest traits, memory, resilience, adaptability, and condense them into living vessels. The project was called the Ark Flesh. 9 vessels were created. 8 failed. Sura was the 9th. Each of us was designed to embody not just memory, but emotional imprint, she explained. The architects believed emotions were the missing variable, what made humans endure while other species died. Eli frowned. So, you're a hybrid? I'm a synthesis, she replied, built from the psychic remains of extinct species, anchored by one human template, the most unpredictable species of all. Let me guess, Eli muttered. Us? Yes, and it was your capacity for irrational loyalty that ruined everything. Eli smirked. We're good at that. She walked deeper into the cave system, leading him to a collapsed shaft. This is where I woke up, she whispered. Eli knelt, brushing away frost from strange etchings on the cave wall, glyphs that pulsed faintly when he touched them. He pulled. Back, they react to me. They react to your DNA. You're the tether. You were always meant to find me. Eli blinked. Wait, what? She looked at him, her eyes shimmering with sorrow. The extraction failed because you intervened. You found me too soon, before the others could erase me. You mean kill you? No, she corrected. Unmake me. Suddenly, the cave shook, a tremor. Not from beneath, but above. A low, humming vibration, like a ship breaking through layers of atmosphere. Sura stood. "They're here." Eli grabbed the crowbar instinctively. "Who?" "The originals," she said grimly. "The ones who made me." Before he could ask more, a beam of searing blue light pierced through the cave ceiling like a blade. Rocks exploded. Dust blinded them, and then silhouettes descended through the beam. Not ships, not drones. Beings, 7 of them, pale as moonlight. Lanky, shifting in and out of solid form. They looked almost human, except their faces were masks of light, and their movements were fluid like shadow underwater. One of them spoke, not in words, but in tone, and somehow Eli understood. Subject: 9. You have breached containment. Return to stasis. Sura stepped forward, defiant. "I've awakened. You can't erase me." Correction. You were never meant to wake. Eli stood beside her, unsure what terrified him more, their glowing bodies, or the fact that they weren't angry. They were disappointed, as if correcting. "A broken machine." One of the originals raised its hand, and a thread of golden light slithered towards Sura like a leash. She flinched. Eli struck out with the crowbar, intercepting the thread. It shattered into sparks. The being turned its mask face toward him. The tether has formed emotional interference. Unacceptable. Sura stepped between them. "You don't get to take him." "You were not made to choose." "Then you failed," she snapped. Another original spoke, its tone lower. "Then we unmake you both." The air turned electric. Sura pushed Eli behind her. "Run if I fall." "No," he said. "We fall together." She smiled faintly. "Stupid." "Irrational," he corrected. "Human." Then she lifted her hands. From her chest, a sphere of light pulsed outward. Not heat, not energy, but pure memory. It slammed into the originals like a wave, staggering them. They hissed in distortion. The glyphs on the walls began to glow. The cave itself responded, activated by her will. And in that moment Eli saw her for what she truly was. Not a weapon, not a prisoner, but a legacy. The originals tried to regroup, but the cave rejected them. The glyphs tore open seams in the stone, fracturing the walls. A scream, high and melodic, echoed through the cave like a choir of extinct voices. Sura shouted, her voice layered in alien tones. "I carry them all. You built me to remember, so remember this." The cavern exploded. In the wave of white fire, Eli blacked out. When he woke, it was snowing again. The cave was collapsed. He was outside, lying in a crater of melted frost, and Sura was standing over him, barely breathing. "You alive?" she asked, her voice trembling. He groaned. "Maybe." She sank to her knees, wrapping her arms around him. "I held them off, but not forever." Eli looked around. "Where did they go?" "I sent them back through the quantum net, but more will follow. Stronger ones." He touched her face. "You're bleeding." "Not blood," she whispered. "Memory. It leaks. Out the more I resist." "Then let's fix it." She shook her head. "You can't, but maybe you can carry it." That night, she carved a sigil into Eli's wrist using a shard of the glyph stone. It burned, but left no scar. Just a mark that pulsed faintly like her glow. "What is it?" he asked. "A tether seal," she said. "If they take me again, this will keep a part of me anchored to you." Eli looked at the mark, then at her. "I don't want part of you." She looked up, startled. "I want all of you," he said, "even if it breaks the universe." Her expression softened. "That's what makes you dangerous. To them. To me." The next morning they left the mountains. Sura no longer walked like a fugitive. She walked like someone with a purpose. They found an old radio tower. Eli used it to bounce a signal across buried frequencies, hoping for a response, any help, any truth. They received one signal, just coordinates, somewhere in the Nevada desert. Sura stared at the screen. "That's where it ends. You're Sure, she nodded. That's where they were made. The architects, the last machine heart. And what happens if we go there? They try to overwrite me. Eli touched her hand. Then we overwrite them. From above, in the void beyond clouds, Karathi watched again. The midwife turned to her subordinate. It has begun. The subordinate frowned. She resists design. Karathi smiled. She is evolving, the first arc flesh to form her own will, the first to choose love over programming. Do we stop her? No, Karathi said. We prepare for the war that will follow. The Nevada desert stretched endlessly, a canvas of heat and dust. Somewhere beneath it, buried deeper than any map dared to note, was the last remnant of the architects, the beings who made Sura and now sought to unmake her. Eli gripped the steering wheel tighter as their rented off-road vehicle rattled over. Ancient sand, heading toward the strange coordinates pinged by the old radio tower. Sura sat beside him, silent but focused. Her skin had lost its alien shimmer, and for the first time she looked entirely human, and that terrified Eli. "What's happening to you?" he asked. Sura looked down at her hands. "I'm shedding the exterior protocols. The shell they gave. Me. I'm becoming something new, but I don't know if I can survive it. You're stronger than you think." She gave him a thin smile. "That's what scares me." They arrived at sunset. The location wasn't a facility, it was a dried-out crater half swallowed by time. But as they stepped into the basin, Eli felt a strange vibration beneath his boots. Something was still alive down there. Sura knelt and placed her palm on the dust. The ground responded. The dust parted, swirling outward in a perfect spiral, revealing a hidden metal hatch covered in foreign glyphs, some matching the ones they'd seen in the cave. A single symbol glowed faintly. Sura exhaled. "This is it, the machine heart." Eli raised an eyebrow. "So, we knock." They descended through the hatch into an abyss of silence. The tunnel was organic, metal that seemed to breathe. Lights pulsed along the walls in sync with Sura's. Steps, as if the place recognized her. At the bottom, they entered a chamber the size of a cathedral. In the center stood a monolith, a vertical black prism hovering inches above a platform of broken stone. Tendrils of silver light energy writhed beneath it like exposed nerves. Sura froze. "That's it," she whispered. "The heart. The architect. Core." Eli stared. "Looks more like a tomb." "It is," she said, "a tomb and a womb. It's where I was encoded, where all of them were." He stepped closer. "So what now?" Suddenly a voice filled the chamber. Not a sound, but a presence, deep and timeless. Subject 9, return to schema. Sura's eyes fluttered. The light in her irises flared. Schema incomplete. Tether corrupted. Emotional anomalies detected. Reformat in progress. Eli stepped between her and the monolith. "Leave her alone, human. You are irrelevant." "I'm not," he growled. "She's not your program anymore. She's a person." "Incorrect. She is memory, nothing more." Sura stepped forward, shaking. "That's a lie. I've felt things I was never programmed to feel. I've loved. Emotion is decay." "No," she said. "Emotion is choice." The monolith pulsed. A beam of searing light struck Sura in the chest. She gasped, collapsing to her knees. Eli caught her barely as the platform beneath them began to shift. Dozens of pillars rose. From the floor, inside them shadowed figures floated in glass-like prisons. Other arc-flesh units, some fully formed, others broken, unfinished, empty-eyed. Eli looked around, horrified. "This is where they keep them?" Sura's voice was faint. "They were prototypes, failed vessels. I'm the only one who lasted this long." The voice returned. "The experiment ends. You will be unmade. The tether will be severed." Eli held her tighter. "Then you'll have to go through me." The monolith responded. Metal vines exploded from the walls, arcing toward them like spears. Eli raised the crowbar he'd brought from the cabin. Ridiculous maybe, but familiar. Sura, weak but determined, placed her hand over his heart. "Don't fight them for me," she whispered. "Fight them with me." Her palm glowed. The tether between them ignited. In that moment, Eli felt everything. Her memories, the extinct species whose echoes lived in her DNA, the cold loneliness of being born into a lab, waking with a heart full of strangers' pain, and no voice to call her own. He saw her crying beneath the earth. He saw himself finding her, half-buried, frost-covered, and whispering, "Stay with me." That changed her, and now she gave that power back. The tether flared, a golden arc of light that connected their souls. It surged outward, striking the monolith like a lance. The structure shuddered, the tendrils recoiled. Anomaly, unquantifiable. Emotion, recursive. Memory, evolving. Sura rose, not as a creation, but as a being. "I am not your vessel," she said, voice layered in countless echoes. "I am your reckoning." She reached toward the other arc units suspended in stasis. The glyphs on their chambers lit up one by one. Some stirred, some cried, some awakened. Eli could feel it, consciousness spreading like fire. The failed vessels were remembering who they had once been, not as tools, but as lives. The architect voice screamed in data fractals, trying to shut them down. Sura raised her arms and sang not in human tones, not even alien ones. It was a song of memory, built from broken fragments, rebuilt into something new. And the machine heart cracked. The chamber began to collapse. The awakened arc units fled, staggering, floating, or crawling, toward the exit. Some reached out to Sura. She nodded to each. "You are free." Eli grabbed her hand. "We have to go." She hesitated, staring at the monolith. "I can end it," she whispered. "I can wipe the architect core. And what happens to you?" "I don't know." He stared at her. "Then we do it together." She smiled softly. The tether between them burned brighter than ever. They stepped to the base of the monolith. Sura placed her hand on its core. Eli placed his over hers. Together they overwrote it. Not with fire, not with violence, but with memory. Sura's voice guided the upload, an emotional imprint so raw and real that it shattered the architect algorithms. They injected it all. Pain, fear, joy, hope, and the human capacity to love without logic. The machine heart screamed, and then silence. When the dust settled, the chamber was empty. No pillars, no light, just two figures standing beneath a ruined ceiling. Sura fell into Eli's arms. "I'm still here," she whispered. He kissed her forehead. "You're more than that." She looked up, tears shimmering. "I think I'm finally me." Days passed. The architect network went silent. Across hidden galaxies, the control nodes blinked out, one by one, like dying stars. Somewhere in deep space, Karathi watched. The midwife of the Watchers smiled. "She has broken free," she said. Her assistant asked, "Is it time?" "No," Karathi replied. "Now. We wait." Back on Earth, Eli and Sura sat outside a small house in the woods. Not the cabin, but one they'd built together. No more hiding, no more fear. Just quiet and a sunrise. She leaned her head against his shoulder. "They'll come eventually, others, curious, threatened. I know. And you'll stay?" He looked at her like she was the only truth left in the world. "I said forever, didn't I?" She smiled. "Then let's live like we mean it." The final memory? The winter came fast. Snowfall buried the forest in white, blanketing the house Eli and Sura had built with silence. Smoke curled from the chimney. The world seemed at peace. But peace was a lie they both understood too well. Sura stood at the edge of the lake, watching as the ice slowly claimed the surface. Her breath misted, but not from cold. She hadn't felt it in weeks. She was changing again. not into something else, but into everything she had ever been, and it was tearing her apart. Eli stepped onto the frozen porch, arms crossed against the chill. "It's early," he said. Sura didn't turn. "They're here." He followed her gaze. In the distance, lights moved between the trees. Not flashlights. Not human. "You sure?" She nodded. "They're not architects. They're worse." Eli stepped beside her. "So what? Do we do?" She looked up at him, her eyes glowing faintly gold. "We finish this." They left the house with nothing but a satchel of old glyph stones, Sura's modified tether bracelet, and Eli's crowbar. Battered but dependable. The forest bent around them unnaturally. Shadows stretched long, and frost bloomed on bark. Then they appeared, not ships, not drones, but beings of light and crystal, taller than any human, faceless and fluid like living glass. They spoke without mouths, their voices hitting consciousness like thunder in a dream. Synthesis 9. "You have violated cosmic isolation protocol." Sura held her ground. "I broke your code. I rewrote the heart. You can't control me anymore." "You corrupted the archive." "No," she said. "I humanized it." The beings paused, analyzing perhaps, then, "You are incompatible with existence." Eli raised his crowbar. "We get that a lot." They didn't attack at first. They tested. Her one being approached and touched her forehead. She winced. Flashes rippled behind her eyes. Entire star systems collapsing, civilizations erased, cold logic replacing empathy. The being recoiled. Infection confirmed. Emotional tether exceeds containment threshold. Sura held her wrist over her heart. The tether seal glowed. "Your kind never understood," she said. "Emotion isn't a flaw. It's the only way forward. Then you must be removed." A beam of white light slammed into her. Eli screamed. She fell, but did not vanish. The glyph stones scattered across the snow, glowing hot. Sura gritted her teeth, forcing herself up. "Try again," she snarled. "I've remembered worse than you." Eli ran to her, blood at the corner of his mouth. "They're too strong. They're built on suppression," she said. "We need to do the opposite." He blinked. "You want to overwhelm them?" "With everything I am. Everything we are." She pressed her palm to his chest. Their tether surged again, stronger than ever. Eli gasped. "It's like they can't process it." They can't. That's the point. The tether stretched outward, unraveling into golden strands of memory. It connected to the beings, one by one, dragging raw, unfiltered emotion into their consciousness. They convulsed, flickered, broke. "Formation," Sura shouted, voice crackling with echoes. "Here's your update. We feel, we suffer, we choose." And then everything went still. Snow stopped falling. The sky turned white. They weren't in the forest anymore. They were in a blank, endless space, a simulated field of memory. The final failsafe. The beings had pulled them into a psychic dimension. One last chance to rewrite her code. But Sura wasn't the same as before. This time, she brought Eli with her. In the white space, the entities tried to isolate her, fracture her mind. They split her memories, forced her to relive each extinction she carried, each failed species encoded in her DNA. But now, Eli saw it all. He walked through the burning cities of a dead alien world, held the hand of a four-eyed child who would never grow up. He felt their last songs, and he held Sura through every one of them. "I can't carry all of them," she whispered, crumbling. "You don't have to," he said. "We will." The entities screamed in frustration, their faceless forms cracked. "This is not data, this is madness." "No," Sura said, standing. "This is life." She reached down and helped Eli to his feet. Together they turned, and the field of white shattered, not into darkness, but into color. The simulation collapsed. Back in the forest, the crystal beings staggered like drunk titans. One fell, then another. Their forms melted into liquid light, absorbed by the glyph stones now circling Sura like satellites. Then, silence. Real silence. Eli helped her up again. "Is it over?" She looked skyward. "I think they're gone. Or maybe they understand now," he laughed weakly. "Took them long enough." Sura smiled, but it faded quickly. Eli noticed. "What is it?" She looked at her hands. They were flickering. "I'm not stable anymore. The tether's burning too bright. I gave too much." His chest tightened. "Don't say that. I anchored myself to you, Eli, and I'd do it again, but now that they're gone, the tether has no counterforce. It's pulling me apart." "No," he grabbed her arms. "There has to be another way." "There is," she said softly. "I can convert the tether into a final imprint, a memory seed." "You mean I'll become part of your memory? You'll carry me, but I won't be like this anymore." He shook his head violently. "No, I want you, Sura, not just the memory." She cupped his face. "But I am memory. That's what they made me, and what you turned into something real." She placed the tether seal over his heart. Light surged. His memories flashed before him, meeting her in the snow, the cave, the beam of light, the moment she whispered, "Stay with me." Then her voice inside his mind, "And I did." The light burst outward, and she was gone, not dead, not erased, just within him. Eli woke up alone in the snow, but he wasn't empty. He could feel her laughter in his pulse, her strength in his spine, her soul in the breath of every wind. He stood, walked back to their cabin, lit the fire, and wrote down everything, every moment, so no one would forget. 10 years later, the world had changed. More signals were coming in, alien but curious. The silence beyond the stars was breaking, and at the center of it all, a man with an old crowbar and a story no one believed, except the children he taught, except the woman in his dreams. He stood once more at the frozen lake, closed his eyes, and whispered, "Still staying." A warm breeze brushed his cheek, like a hand or a memory. The end.